Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations. This is TB's Tale of the Tape with your host, TB Scouting MMA. We are here to do a UFC 314 preview, looking at all the advanced stats, any updates in injury history, long layoffs, anything we can dig up on these fights that doesn't have to do with actually picking a bet or definitively taking a side. And then it's time to get to tape study after this. So make sure, if you guys aren't already, please hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel. If you aren't already, Chronic Combat, we're bringing you the best bets, the best guests, always free picks, live every Thursday with the Guru Scouting MMA, and myself, TB. We are always having a great time and breaking these cards down to their fullest. And yeah, I hope you guys end up joining us if this is your first time watching our channel. Without further ado, I know what you guys came here for, so let's get down to this UFC 314 breakdown and stats preview. If you're here watching live in the chat, please leave a like and comment. Let me know if there's anything that you found out so that I can bring it up. We can talk about it. Maybe there's something that I didn't find in my research thus far. Anyways, let's get it started. We've got our first fight of the night. Oh yeah, Forrest, you got to pipe up that like button on site. Let's go. Oh, yeah, and it's TB nicknames also. So if you guys have a great nickname that maybe I didn't think of, or maybe you think mine is trash like the Guru sometimes does, let me know if you got a better nickname. So that way we could workshop it before Thursday. All right, so on this fight here, let's see. Haley, all hail Haley Cowan versus Nora the Explorer Cornole. Oh, boy, this should be an absolutely interesting one now that you guys have seen their faces. Let's bring it up live. So yeah, I mean, looking at the tail of the tape here, this is what we're doing. Just getting an idea if on paper there's any advantages for these fighters. So Cornole is going to be 2 years older. There's going to be even on the reach. Haley Cowan is going to be 1 inch taller. Haley Cowan will be the southpaw striker. So yeah, that would be an advantage to her end. Not a lot of UFC experience on either side. Nora more so than Cowan, and her level of competition, quite frankly, not too shabby. Nora's fought some decent fighters thus far in the UFC, at least ones that have been successful so far in their UFC run. Her total opponent UFC record, 7-2 for their fights in the UFC. Whereas Cowan, she really hasn't fought, a super high level UFC fighter. In this fight, at least on paper, looks to be very even. Not really a gigantic advantage for one over the other, like from a height, reach, age, any of that perspective. So we'll need to do a little bit of tape study. But one thing that seems to stand out on paper is Nora spends 40% of her time being controlled. Cowan spends 32% of her time in control position. Nora might end up getting controlled, whereas if this fight plays out at distance, Cowan has a minus 10% distance striking accuracy over expected, whereas Nora is actually a positive striker from distance. So seems like a striker versus grappler, and in these types of scenarios, I might have to go with the grappler here. Cowan, if she can get 7 to 10 minutes of control, could be looking at a solid win. It looks like she has an above average control rate, and it looks like Nora, she doesn't, not great takedown defense, and she spends a lot of time being controlled. That could spell defeat for Nora Cornole, and just doing a cursory look at the odds, well, Haley Cowan's a dog. So isn't that interesting? We're going to need to look into it a little bit more. There could be some other stuff that we need to see. Next fight, we've got Tresean, Mr. Vicious Gore versus Matuto Marco Tulio. I am absolutely intrigued by this matchup. We've got same exact age down to the 0.8. We've got 1 inch reach advantage for Tresean Gore. They are the same height. Tresean Gore also has, he's the switch stance striker, whereas Tulio, it says he's more orthodox, but I think he switches it up as well. No real advantages from a height, reach, age perspective. Seems pretty even on paper. What can we get from the stats? I don't think Tresean Gore is really that good of a striker, at least from a minute winning perspective, and he gets cleanly outstruck over the course of his UFC career. Actually, where he's pretty good is on the mat, it seems like. He does attempt some takedowns. He's got a high accuracy. He has a high control rate of ground time. Doesn't, it's basically even of time spent in control versus time being controlled. So, yeah, Tulio on paper spends a lot more time controlling fights, but, a little bit less of a sample size in that regard, I would say. Also, Gore a bit more UFC experience, but we are talking about a bit of a layoff here for Trayshawn Gore, so that's something I'm interested in. Tulio definitely coming off of the shorter layoff. To be exact, Trayshawn Gore last fought in November, whereas Tulio last fought in January. So that's another advantage, kind of the Tulio side. Seems like he'll be the better striker with more power at distance. So it's going to take, Trayshawn Gore having some magic in the wrestling department or coming up with some type of magical finish. But yeah, it seems like the stats are taking me in the Matuto direction. Um, nothing like super big sample size. So I don't know how much I trust it, especially with Tulio as the favorite. Seems like a pass spot to me. Our next fight, we've got Sumo Derji, the Tibetan Eagle versus Moneybags Mitch Raposo. That's a TV nickname. What are you guys thinking about that one? All right, breaking down this fight, Muderji is going to be 3 years older. He also has a lot more UFC experience. His opponent's essentially, 25 and 30. That's not bad in the UFC. Whereas Mitch Raposo, the only guy he fought was Andre Lima, who was 1-0 at the time. Sumuderji going to have a 8-inch reach advantage. He's going to be 3 inches taller. He's also the southpaw striker. Mitch, he's a switch stance striker. Sue lands a way better striking differential at distance. He's got the reach. He knows how to use it. He has been knocked down once, but Mitch, I'm not sure if he's really bringing the power in that regard. We'll have to find out. Seems like Sue should have a clear volume advantage using his reach. He also has better striking defense. And yeah, I guess the upside would be if Mitch goes to wrestle, we see a 67% takedown defense, 23% of time being controlled for Sumu Derji. And yeah, he doesn't really get a lot of control time in his own right. But the total submission attempt ratio is 4-4. And what I will say is Charles Johnson went to go for like some quote unquote easy takedowns. And it ends up that Sumu Derji is like reversing stuff and putting him in dangerous choke threats. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Mitch Raposo have a really tough time dealing with the length of Muderji in the grappling, even if he does have success landing some takedowns. Could be a really interesting thing to see. But so far, the tail of the tape screams Sumu Derji. Line keeps on coming in closer on the Mitch Raposo side. So maybe there's something to this whole Moneybag Mitch side, but I don't know. I'm not taking it. So for me, it's favorite or pass, and it's probably you got to find some type of prop. So yeah, we'll look into it. Mitch, I expect him to be very difficult to finish. Coming out of New England Cartel, his only losses have really come by. There's one by sub, one by decision. Muderji by sub if Mitch gets reckless. I don't know. If Jake Hadley's subbing you, could be interesting. All right, we're moving on. We've got Cedricus Dumas the Reaper versus Hussar, the artist formerly known as Lord, Michal Oleksiejczuk. Seems like just about even in the age department. Cedricus Dumas is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's also going to have a 2-inch height advantage. Looks like Oleksiejczuk is going to be the southpaw striker versus the orthodox. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed some of the chats here. What are the odds that Haley cancels? Oh, the odds are great. You never know what happens with Haley. What's up, Rem Dog? How you doing, man? I'm so happy you were able to join the show today. Definitely looking to have a good time here. Yeah, Nora by KO plus 425. That's definitely a path for her. She's got dangerous striking. Be interested to see it. Nora's second round KO for Forrest. Interesting. And yeah, I really like Violence and Sue Raposo. That could be interesting. Both guys, have their own danger, I suppose. And, I'm just curious if they might be a little hard to finish in their own right. We'll have to do some looking into that. But for this one, for Dumas versus Oleksiejczuk, yeah, I'm pretty interested in seeing if like Oleg Zaychuk here. Um, yeah, I think if you just look at like the striking stats, I mean, Oleg Zaychuk is definitely the more volume and he has more power and he definitely seems like, he can work at a higher pace and be better from distance than Dumas. But he's giving up reach. And what comes into it is that Cedric Dumas has 70% control rate of his total ground and clinch time. He spends 38% of time in control position, but he also spends 17% of time being controlled. And he has a 40% takedown defense. Now, Oleg Zaychuk, he is at a new camp training out of the Fighting Nerds now, whereas Cedric Dumas, it's actually a great question. I didn't really anybody know where he's training out of right now? Was it still like Fusion Excel in Florida? I think that's where he was out of recently. But in this fight, I think that the size would play into Dumas being able to land some takedowns. But yeah, I mean, if this fight is playing out on the feet, I think Oleg Zaychuk should be able to do pretty well here. So just kind of looking, and yeah, I mean, we're seeing witness martial arts. He's in a post with someone else. Dumas, where is he now? Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of posting himself hitting pads before his last fight. Um, I don't know. I haven't really seen last day of work. Where's he at here? I mean, he's at a gym with some peeps. So yeah, Platinum Mike, yeah, Fusion. So okay, cool. He's still there. Seems like he's at least putting in consistent work. As long as he doesn't get arrested for domestic charges before the fight, then I think that there is a good chance that his wrestling and grappling could take him to a decision victory. I mean, like typically, if you're going to finish Mikal, it's going to be by submission. It's just that Dumas should be able to do that against other fighters that he's taken on recently, and like even like Denis Talulin. But at the same time, he was able to wrestle him to a decision. So I could definitely see the upside here, where Dumas should be able to land takedowns. Just Talulin lands 3 takedowns on him for 2.5 minutes on 5 attempts. Oh, and he gets stuffed on 7 takedowns versus Denise. Oh my goodness. So man, I mean, he gives up 2 takedowns to Abu and he lands 1. I mean, this fight could be so ugly. I mean, I would caution dog or pass by far. But if this fight takes place from distance, Oleg Zaychuk should be the clear winner. So, all right, we're moving on. Make sure, my friends, it's very important these days. It's crazy season right now. You got to stay hydrated. So go ahead, do your thing. We'll rejoin in like 5 seconds. All right, we've got Darren the Damage Elkins versus Julian Juicy J. Rosa. Wow, this one should be an absolutely great fight. I can't wait to see it. I mean, these guys are just absolutely known for mayhem, violence, just out of this world fights. So, yeah, I can't wait for Darren Elkins versus Juicy J. In this matchup, if we look at tail of the tape, that's what we're here for. 5 years older for Elkins, not ideal. We have a 3-inch reach and a 3-inch height advantage for Juicy J. He's also the southpaw striker. Darren Elkins does win rounds at a higher rate. He's also got a higher percentage of knockout wins and less percentage of knockout losses. So realistically, I mean, like Juicy J, his downside here would be that he's got a 59% takedown defense, spends 15% of his time being controlled. And Darren Elkins spends 37% of his fight time in control position. And he's got, a really high takedown rate per 5 minutes of distance. The real thing I worry about here in this matchup, the reach advantage, the height advantage, the fact that Juicy J is typically in danger. Like the fights that he loses are usually when people can knock him out from distance early in the fight. And if not, that's when you start to see Juicy J get cooking. And Darren Elkins is typically relying on his opponents to gas out down the stretch and he takes over. Like Daniel Pineda, like TJ Brown, like Tristan Connolly, like Derek Minner, like Garrett Gorey. But I mean, when he fights guys like Ryan Hall, Nate Landwehr, Cub Swanson, Jonathan Pierce, guys that Volkanovski, Lamas, guys that don't have cardio issues and are able to kind of deal with the takedowns and outstrike them from distance. I think that's what Juicy J could probably do here. I think that he's probably the better striker, and it says so on the numbers. He's got a higher volume. So at distance, Juicy J should be winning the minutes. And yeah, negative striking accuracy over expected for Elkins, but a positive for Juicy J. And if it's on the ground, Juicy J is actually an even more efficient striker on the ground when he ends up in top position. I also like that he attempts a ton of submissions himself. So I don't think he's going to be out of the water if Darren Elkins is trying to find a finish here. Because quite frankly, Juicy J, I mean, the times he loses, it's like, yeah, I mean, Ishihara knockout, Devontae Smith knockout, Grant Dawson, and that guy's a whole other level than Darren Elkins. Let's be real. Julio Arce, that's a head kick. Sang-Woo Choi, that's a punch. Alex Caceres, that's a head kick. Padilla, that's a punch. Like, I don't think Darren Elkins is knocking this guy out from distance, and I don't think he's controlling him for an extended period. So ultimately, that tells me, based off of the tail of the tape, based off of the stats, Juicy J should be the clear pick here. And it seems like the line is probably where it should be, with Juicy J as the clear favorite. So we're moving on. We've got Jim fucking Miller versus Chase the Dream Hooper. 16 years younger for Chase Hooper. He has a 3-inch reach advantage. He's going to be 5 inches taller. They're both southpaws, so no real advantage there. You know, Chase Hooper actually has a better distance striking differential right now than Jim Miller. I will say Miller's fought the better guys, so I feel you. But he's also beaten up on really shit competition. So Chase Hooper here, I mean, clearly has the wrestling advantage. And if your name is Jim Miller and you've been wrestled by Alexander Hernandez, I don't think you're stuffing the takedowns and submitting Chase Hooper. So, yeah, tell the tape tells me Chase Hooper clearly by a mile. I'm sorry, Jim. It's not looking good, buddy. You're going to need a knockout on the feet, and you're going to need it fast. So I wish you the best of luck. Jersey boy represent. But, yeah, it's going to be Chase Hooper here for me. And the line reflects it that way. So we're moving on. We've got Piotr Janjiaonan versus Vina Janjiroba Kakara. Let me know if you know what the nickname means. I'm not going to look it up right now. I'll try to know for Thursday. Yeah, just about the same age. Virna about 1 year older. She's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Janjiaonan going to be giving up. She's got a 2-inch height advantage for Yan. So in this fight, pretty clear, striker versus grappler. Janjiaonan has the higher differential per minute at distance. She also has more knockdowns landed. She also has a way better striking accuracy over expected. It's just when you look at some of the ground numbers, that's where it gets scary for the Janjiaonan side. And if it's going to be a striker versus grappler, just like in the Haley Cowan fight, I'm going to stay consistent here. Vrena Janjiroba, she controls 74% of her total clinch and ground time. And when you look at some of the fighters that she's been grappling against, I mean, by God, it's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, Vrena Janjiroba, I mean, to be doing this with Amanda Lemos, Lupe Godinez, Angela Hill, Amanda Hibash, Kanako Murata, Mackenzie Dern, Carla Esparza. The fact that she's going back and forth with the highest levels of wrestlers and grapplers, and now she's fighting Janjiaonan. I mean, Yana spends way too much time in being controlled, 26% of her total fight time, and Vina spends an elite 41% in control. So overall, I like Vina Janjiroba to win by control time. She is the favorite. I'm waiting for the line to come in closer. We'll see what we do with this. But what I will say, it probably goes over a few minutes. So you can probably use an over same game parlay with Vina Janjiroba and maybe take a few shots on like the round 2, round 3 sub. But also it could just be like it could be early and it could never happen as well. So I would say just like I'd be more apt to taking Vina and the overs rather than a round 1 sub. So let's play it that way, if anything. But more importantly, I think the tail of the tape clearly indicates that the biggest dominant force in this fight would be Vina on the mat. So we're going to go with her. All right, we got our next fight. We got Dan 50K Ige versus Sean the Sniper Woodson. Yeah, exactly. Type of bird. Got her at minus 135. That's right. That's right. It's a native bird to where she's from. So she is the Karkara. Thank you. And yeah, minus 135. That's a great line. I hope to get that or better, my friend. In this fight, Dan Ige versus Sean the Sniper Woodson. 50K Ige. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be 1 year older. Sean Woodson has a 7-inch reach advantage. He's going to have a 7-inch height advantage. If you look at this, I mean, from distance, Sean Woodson is going to be landing more strikes per minute at distance. Also, they've got, I would say Danny Gay's probably got more power. He lands a much higher knockdown rate per total strikes. Woodson is the better striker from distance. Ige is the better, ground potential. But quite frankly, I mean, I don't see him really landing takedowns on a guy like Sean Woodson, where, I mean, he's actually got 86% takedown defense. He spends 18% of his time being in control, but the majority of it is up against the fence as he's stuffing takedowns. And I feel like his takedown accuracy actually being at 62%, and he lands 5 takedowns of his own, whereas his opponents have attempted 51 takedowns, and he's only been landed on 7 times. And that's super impressive. So I feel like his head strike defense being so good, like Danny Ige, he's going to need to land to the body. He's going to need to land body head combos, and he's going to need to break down Sean Woodson over time. I just think, like, as this fight plays out over 15, if it's not a flash knockout for 50K Danny Ige, who could very well win a bonus, kind of like his name would indicate. But if not, I would take Sean Woodson by decision. So Ige round 1, round 2 knockout, Sean Woodson by decision. Those would be my ideas. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Sean Woodson using some offensive wrestling could even be a sneaky look. I don't think he'll win by submission, but I don't think anybody's finishing Dan Ige. Dude's head is made of something different. Yeah, so we're going to go with Sean the Sniper Woodson. Finishing potentials on Ige's side. Our next fight, before we get there, make sure you guys do the right thing. If you haven't already, please throw a like on the channel. Subscribe to Chronic Combat if you haven't already. It helps us out so much. We really appreciate all your guys' support. It really means so much to be able to come out here, share this content, have a great time on the weekly with all my people. So if you haven't done so, please make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe. So our next fight, we're on to the main card. We've got the Miner, Nikita Krylov versus the Devastator, Dominic Reyes. I don't know. I got a feeling the Devastator is going to end up being devastated. If you look at the tail of the tape, Krylov, even coming off of a layoff, he is going to be 2 years younger than Dom Reyes. He has the same reach. 1-inch height advantage for Dom Reyes, but without the reach advantage, doesn't really mean as much. Orthodox for Krylov, for Southpaw for Reyes. Expected round percentage is pretty similar for the two of them. Krylov lands a lot more volume from distance. He seems to have a lot more minute-winning potential. He also has a better chin and a better knockdown ratio. They have similar power at a knockdown percentage rate. And yeah, I think this fight could be very, very close overall. But what I will say, what's not close is the level of chin. If anything, Krylov should be able to hurt Dom Reyes at some point. Whether or not finishes the job, I'm not sure. Also, I think that the grappling and wrestling would be more in the back pocket of Krylov, who spends 41% of his total fight time in control position. But Dom Reyes only spends 9% of his total fight time being controlled. It's just he's kind of like a 50-50, whereas, Krylov is more of a 59-40 kind of guy. And he's only been subbed or controlled by, like, the absolute best of opposing grapplers. So I'll take Nikita Krylov here, and I'll take him pretty confidently. I think he is going to have his way with Dom Reyes, whether it's by finish, whether it's by wrestling, by this or by that. But I think Krylov, it's not necessarily big on, like, tell the tape aspects, but I think that the grappling is what stands out when you look deeper into the statistics and his overall ability to control and push a high pace. I think Reyes kind of needs built-in breaks and to slow down the pace, whereas Krylov, I think he could fight a crazy fight. So our next ones, we've got Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell, Bryce the Preacher Mitchell versus Jean Lord Silva. What I'm really interested to see is if Bryce Mitchell brings out the Bible and performs a live exorcism on Jean Lord Silva as he's hanging on the fence like a crazy man before the fight starts. Yeah, Thug Nasty here. He's going to be 2 years older. John Silva giving up 1 inch of reach. He's also giving up 3 inches of height. He's a switch stance versus the southpaw of Bryce Mitchell. Yeah, I think the expected round percentage does scream to John Silva, 10% better round winning percentage. Also, I mean, they have like similar efficiency from, per minute of distance, but the knockdown ratio tells the story of this fight. And I think that's how it ends. Um, Even with the ground, I think John Silva is truly a special scrambler, special athlete, special striker, special scrambler. He uses the submission threat and his athleticism to create scrambles, but without giving up bad positions. And Bryce Mitchell, he kind of takes advantage of these lower level fighters that can't deal with chain takedowns as he starts facing the higher level guys like the Dan Ige, the Ilya Taporia, the Josh Emmett. I think it's all you need to see. And maybe he lands a takedown or two here, but at some point when John Silva lands that right hand, or when he lands that check left hook, or when he lands that uppercut, or when he lands that flying knee as Bryce Mitchell goes to dive in for a single leg, yeah, I think that's going to be the story of the fight, that he's landed 4 knockdowns to 0, whereas Mitchell's been knocked down twice and only landed 1 knockdown on his own end. I think that one was a bit fluky in its own right against an aging Edson Barbosa who was scared of the takedown threat. When you look at the takedown defense of Sean Silva, it is 80%. He has been taken down by Charles Jourdain a couple of times. And also, you look, let's see, his other, I just want to make sure we get this right. Sean Silva. Yeah, all 3 takedowns. Charles Jourdain, 7 attempts, only 77 total seconds of control. So for 7 takedowns, 11 seconds of control per takedown attempt. That's terrible. And what I can tell you is that Jean Silva, he's not really preparing for Jourdain to be a grappler in this fight. He thinks it's going to be a striking matchup. It's Charles Jourdain. This guy ends up shooting takedowns. Yeah, okay, catches him off guard a couple times. He immediately scrambles back up. He's fine. He knows Bryce Mitchell's going to try to shoot takedowns, guys. I think he's going to be able to deal with it. And I think he's going to have the answers from a counter-striking perspective. So overall, we're going with the Lord himself, Jean Lord Silva. Maybe that's why Mikhail Oleksiejczuk changed his nickname, because he knew he was going to fight on the same card as Jean Silva one day, and he didn't want to deal with that bullshit. So fair enough. We move on to our next fight. We've got Yair La Pantera Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull Freire. Yeah, I mean, this one's going to be an interesting matchup. You've got 5 years younger Rodriguez. He's going to be giving up. I mean, Rodriguez has a 6-inch reach advantage. He's also 6 inches taller. Oh, it's just, I really don't love the defensive wrestling from Yair. And if Patricio decides he's going to wrestle, it's going to be knockout or submission or bust for Rodriguez. I don't think this is a 15-minute striking battle, because Yair's going to want to throw kicks. And if he's throwing kicks, I think he's going to be in trouble. I think that the takedowns will be there. And I don't love his defensive wrestling. Like smaller guys like Frankie Edgar and, plenty of other people have wrestled Yair. Even Jeremy Stevens, right? He did that as well. So there's plenty of people that have found a way to make Yair slow down and use their wrestling. And not even just like Brian Ortega, but even Alexander Volkanovski, he's able to get takedowns at will. I think Pitbull, yeah, he's smaller. Maybe he's going to have a tough time closing the distance from, at range. I think he does at some point. It could be interesting to look at potentially Pitbull's wrestling advantage. I don't really have the stats on it, but if there was a path, that would be it. So I'm definitely not playing Rodriguez as a favorite. All right, we're moving on. We've got Iron Mike Chandler versus Paddy the Body Pimblett. Scousers don't get knocked out. So Chandler going to be 9 years older. He's going to be giving up 2 inches of reach. He's going to be giving up 2 inches of height. I think it's probably going to look even more dramatic in the octagon. I don't know why. I think Chandler is maybe even a little shorter than listed. Regardless, Paddy wins rounds at a higher percentage. He also lands more distance strikes per minute at distance, like at a higher differential. He's never been knocked down in the UFC, whereas Chandler has been knocked down a few times. Technically, Paddy on paper is a better striker. He's also got on paper, the more opportunistic grappling game. 7 submissions to 0 attempted, whereas Chandler's given up 4 submission attempts and only attempted 1 in his own right. So even if Chandler's landing these takedowns, I think Paddy's going to be scary off of his back. And I think he's really developed as an athlete and as a prospect. I think his size is going to be working to his advantage in this matchup. And I think his striking actually isn't as bad as it's been made out to be. I think this guy, yeah, it's really easy to hate him, but something about Patty's grown on me a little bit as a prospect is all these times you try to fade him. And, he still hasn't really gotten checked here. And maybe Michael Chandler is the first one to do it, but that's not what I'm picking. We're going Patty the Batty till the tape told me to. Can't say otherwise. Our last fight of the night, this one is going to be an absolute banger. I cannot wait for this fight. 2 of my absolute favorite fighters, Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, you guys see above me? Look up there. Who is that guy? Oh, that's Alexander Volkanovski. I waited outside in cold New York City weather in November for multiple blocks outside of a liquor store for a meet and greet with Alexander Volkanovski. And it ended up being that there weren't enough, time for him to meet everybody and shake their hands. But he comes out. His people come around. They're like, hey, we're so sorry. We have some signed photographs for the people that have been waiting the longest. And me and the Guru were able to get our own photographs signed by the one and only Volkanovski. And it really just showed the character of the guy that he comes out to the line and he runs down. He gives everyone a fist bump for the blocks down of people that are waiting that couldn't see him by the end of his meet and greet. And Alexander Volkanovski has just truly been one of my favorite fighters to root for and bet on. I mean, we're talking about maybe not all the way back to his debut because I wasn't quite as into the game at that juncture. But I'll tell you, I was on him for Jose Aldo fight. I was on him for, all the Max Holloway fights. So Alexander Volkanovski, I mean, I've been betting on this guy every single time, essentially, up until the Topuria fight, up until the latest Islam Makhachev fights. And I think he's coming in way better shape for this matchup. I think Volkanovski is going to give his absolute best account of himself here. And this isn't him taking a super short notice opportunity. We're going to get the best of Volk, I think, and I'm really excited to see it because he truly is one of my favorite fighters of all time. It's just on the other side, you've got the 6 years younger, 1 inch reach, 5-inch height. Diego Lopez, he doesn't really have the better differential per minute at distance, but his knockdown ratio is pretty sweet. 3-0. His finish rate in the UFC and his ability to fight consistently, super impressive. He's faced guys like Dan Ige recently on super duper short notice, up multiple weight classes. He took on Brian Ortega on super great matchup for him, super washed Ortega. But at the same time, it's like Diego Lopez has taken all these opportunities in front of him and he's capitalized. And I'd be afraid to get in front of the train at this juncture. I think it really comes down to the power and the fact that Volkanovski has been knocked down 3 times at this point. And also the grappling. I think it's really understated the 8-0 submission attempt ratio on his side, that how dangerous he is in any type of grappling position. I mean, Movsar Evloev has some of the best submission defense, and it got as sketchy as it could possibly get. Volkanovski, we've seen him deep in choke attempts versus Ortega, but he wasn't hurt when he got there, and I'm really terrified that Diego Lopez is going to be able to hurt him, and then it's going to turn into Volkanovski looking for takedowns, and it's going to end up in a submission, and I think the submission of the triangle armbar threat of Diego Lopez that makes you choose, that makes you have to consider multiple things at once, it's going to be totally different from the T-City, guillotine, or the, triangle that gets close, but he's not really threatening an armbar. I think that's what's going to make Diego stand out in the grappling here. And yeah, it's going to be the dream, believe, and make it happen. Diego, the Dream Lopez, is going to beat Alexander Volkanovski. And if he doesn't, well, then I'll be happy because I love Alexander Volkanovski. But if Diego does beat Volk, I do also like Diego, and I'll have a nice 5-unit bet on him at plus 120. So I'll take it. Hope you guys are following me on Picket. You'll see all my bets there. You would have gotten Diego Lopez the second I played it. That's probably the best bet that I could give you at this juncture. What up, Rob Thomas? Appreciate you joining us. Be like Rob Thomas. Share the content. Remdog Chandler should take Romy as his nickname. Yeah, are you not entertained? He is kind of like better than Cortavius. Thank you, Remdog. Appreciate all you guys in the chat. Forrest, Remdog, Rob Thomas, everyone that always joins the show. I know you guys will be catching it on the rewatch. Please comment your best bet. Comment with some stuff about that I might not have touched on. I'm interested to see what you people got to say. I'm so excited for UFC 314. If you haven't thrown a like, that's messed up, but do the right thing. Throw a like on the video, and I will see you guys on Thursday for the breakdown with the guru. Can't wait to see you then. Take care, folks. Stay out of trouble.